Hi, this is Isabella. Today I will describe my understanding of LGBT minority stress and discuss why understanding intersectional identities are important when working with LGBT couples and how this understanding can be used when counseling these individuals. Stress is part of everyday life and we all experience it. However, minority stress refers to the additional stress that members of LGBT groups experience because of the prejudice and discrimination they face. These can lead to poorer health outcomes compared to individuals that don't experience them. Minority stress is unique, it's chronic, and it's socially based. It is unique because it is not a stressor that everyone experiences. For example, starting a new job can be stressful for anyone, but starting a new job and being afraid to mention your spouse for fear of being fired is a combined stressor that individuals in same-sex relationships experience. It is chronic because it remains a relatively stable presence in someone's life due to underlying social and societal structures. A stressful day at work may follow some individuals home and there is relief, but there is little room for escape from that situation for LGBT living in a racist, sexist, heterosexist or cis-sexist society. It is socially based in that it is about more than individuals. Rather, minority stress stems from societal structures that goes beyond individual conditions that characterize general stressors. For example, when visiting the doctor, a transgender woman may experience stress as anyone experiences stress. But that same transgender woman we may have to deal with medical record that does not recognize her affirmative gender identity, which can cause her to be continually misgendered during her doctor's appointment. So given the combination of being unique, chronic, and socially based, the minority stress model illustrates that prejudice and stigma predispose LGBT to greater exposure to stress than individuals who are not members of these marginalized communities. In turn, the excess exposure to stress can cause adverse health outcomes such as internalized homonegativity or homophobia that translates into couple difficulties, including realistic fears of being affectionate in certain public contexts, sexual desire or performance difficulties, depression, and withdrawal from their partner. For couples in which these dynamics are operating, an explicit goal for couple therapy should include eliminating and reducing the partner's internalized homophobia. Successfully countering internalized homophobia requires attributing them to societal ignorance, to prejudice, to fear, and the tendency to conform to traditional norms, to the dominant norms. For example, the LGBT affirmative therapy actively challenges society's views of homosexuality that contribute to the problem of same-sex couples. The partners are encouraged to dispute and deconstruct society's prejudicial views rather than internalize and be limited by them. This is similar to what narrative therapists describe as externalizing the problem. In this case, viewing homophobia as the oppressive problem rather than viewing one's sexual orientation as the problem. This technique can serve to decrease helplessness, empower couples, and open up avenues for change. Encouraging same-sex couples to engage in LGBT community organizations can be also a coping resource, offer opportunities for social support, along with other forms of resilience to counteract the impact of minority stress and lead to outcomes that support LGBT couples. Having LGBT friendship circles can also provide a sense of social embeddedness and continuity that families of origin fail to provide. Now, intersectional identity theory asserts that people are often disadvantaged or privileged by multiple sources: their race, class, gender identity, sexual orientation, religion, and other identity markers. These identities of gender and race can work against the LGBT community when they intersect. Let's start with my friend as an example. He's 50 years old, he's male, Jewish, Catholic, married, and gay. He's monosexual, cisgender, and his pronouns are he, his, him. Now, these things have shaped him in his view of the world. He may meet someone who doesn't know him, and the first and maybe only thing that they see about him is that he's a white male, and because of this, they assume he lives in his white male privilege to attain greater things in life than others. They may be particularly irked by him, or by this inequality of opportunity, judge him, or even be angry with him based on their assumption, all without knowing anything else about him. However, that is not where he lives within his identities. He lives in his gay male identity, which has shaped him than any of his other identities, and where he has experienced a great deal of discrimination and potential harm. As a gay man, and throughout his life, he has experienced discrimination around issues of housing, bullying, even violence. And as a gay man, he wasn't able to legally marry his partner until a few summers ago. And still, there is scant federal protection for him today. He also had to worry about being fired for being gay, because and being denied health care, being denied service in some establishments, and so forth. So people who only see him as representing white male privilege have no idea who he really is, and have missed his far more important and challenging identity, his queer identity. This has affected him in how he deals with the world much more than his white male privilege. Someone who is so put off by this, having identified him as someone with white male privilege, are unlikely to treat him with respect as an equal human being. Transgender women of color, for example, have three targets on them because of societal prejudice, being trans, women, and non-white, and they suffer from highest number rate in the nation, highest murder rate in the nation. Becoming aware of how intersectional identity works has improved my understanding of the LGBT community. As a counselor, I had LGBT clients come to me who were also African American, Asian American, and didn't want to live or identify with the LGBT community or culture. They had chosen to live as heterosexual and cisgender individuals, because in their cultures, coming out and living as an LGBT individual would have meant rejection from their families and their cultures. They did not seek to change who they were, only to live in their cultures in hiding. I did not understand that their main intersectional identities were as Black or Asian. Instead, I saw their reluctance as LGBT as internalized homophobia, self-hate, and shame, and would have begun therapy around this. I feel strongly that everyone, especially those in the mental health field, would benefit by understanding how intersectional identities work. To that end, it is important, I think, to create to have an open mind and ask about someone's intersectional identities, and pay attention to how they answer. For example, ask, what does being cisgender mean to you in your world? Or how many identities do you think you have, and which do you feel are the most dominant? It is essential to recognize that LGBT community experiences the world differently based on their overlapping identity markers.